The war in Fullmetal Alchemist doesn't begin with explosions. It begins with silence. Entire cities emptied. Children orphaned. Soldiers standing in the ruins, unsure whether they are victors or executioners. The Ishvalan Civil War is remembered in the series as a necessary tragedy, a grim footnote in the rise of Amestris. But that framing is deceptive, because the horror of Ishval was never about magic, alchemy, or fantasy races. It was about something far more familiar, a modern state discovering how efficiently it can annihilate a people, and then learning how to live with itself afterward. Fullmetal Alchemist is often praised for its tight plotting and moral complexity, but beneath its story lies a much sharper edge. This is not just a tale about equivalent exchange or the dangers of playing God. It is a reflection of real 20th century warfare, of imperial expansion, racialized enemies, scientific militarism, and the quiet psychological rot left behind when a nation decides that some lives are expendable. The war that shaped Fullmetal Alchemist is not fictional. It already happened. In the world of Amestris, the Ishvalans are marked by red eyes, distinct faith, and cultural isolation. They are othered long before the first shot is fired. When conflict erupts, the state responds not with restraint, but with overwhelming force. Alchemists, once scholars and healers, are converted into weapons. The battlefield becomes a laboratory. Characters like Roy Mustang, Riza Hawkeye, and Scar are all defined by this war, not by what they did tactically, but by what it did to their sense of self. Mustang's flames burn hot, but his voice is hollow. Hawkeye's loyalty is precise, almost mechanical, as if discipline is the only thing keeping her together. And Scar, walking embodiment of unresolved trauma, turns grief into vengeance because grief is the only thing the state left him with. What makes the Ishvalan War unsettling is how mundane it feels. There is no glorious final battle, no triumphant resolution. Only orders followed, lines crossed, and a quiet agreement afterward to never speak of it again. This is not fantasy logic. This is the psychology of modern warfare. But to understand why this fictional tragedy feels so disturbingly real, we have to step outside the anime and into history. Hiromu Arakawa grew up on stories of war. Her family history includes direct ties to Japan's military past, and Fullmetal Alchemist was written in a country still grappling with the moral aftermath of its 20th century actions. The Ishvalan War closely mirrors Japan's imperial campaigns in Asia, particularly in China and Korea. During the Second Sino-Japanese War, entire cities were destroyed under the justification of maintaining order. Civilians were reframed as threats. Scientific units like Unit 731 conducted human experimentation in the name of progress and national security. The logic was chillingly familiar. Dehumanize first, destroy second, rationalize afterward. This same logic defined many Western conflicts as well. The British Empire's actions during the Boer Wars, the United States firebombing of Dresden and Tokyo, and later the use of atomic weapons. All were justified through a utilitarian calculus. If the suffering of many could be framed as necessary for the survival of the state, then it became acceptable. Philosopher Hannah Arendt famously described this as the banality of evil. The most terrifying atrocities are not committed by monsters, but by ordinary people following systems that reward obedience over conscience. In Fullmetal Alchemist, the soldiers of Ishval are not sadists. They are professionals, and that is precisely the point. The moral core of Fullmetal Alchemist is often associated with equivalent exchange, but the Ishvalan War exposes the lie hidden inside that principle. The state claims balance, sacrifice one group to protect the many. But philosopher Immanuel Kant warned that treating human beings as mere means to an end, even a noble one, is the root of moral collapse. Mustang's greatest struggle is not guilt over killing. It is the realization that the system rewarded him for it. His ambition to become Führer is not driven by power, but by a desperate attempt to rewrite the rules that once justified genocide. Scar, by contrast, rejects reform entirely. To him, the system is irredeemable. Only destruction can balance the scales. This is the unresolved philosophical tension at the heart of the series. Is a violent system fixable from within, or does participating in it permanently stain you? Fullmetal Alchemist never offers a clean answer, because history doesn't either. When we return to the anime after understanding its historical roots, the ending hits differently. The focus on rebuilding, on small acts of restitution, suddenly feels fragile, almost insufficient. And that discomfort is intentional. Arakawa refuses to give us catharsis. There is no resurrection of Ishval, no magical absolution, just survivors trying to live with what they've done. This mirrors real post-war societies, where monuments replace accountability and silence masquerades as healing. The true horror of the Ishvalan War is not the bloodshed itself, but how easily it fades into bureaucracy. How quickly uniforms replace faces. How fast a nation moves on. Fullmetal Alchemist endures because it understands something deeply uncomfortable about human nature, that intelligence does not prevent cruelty, and good intentions do not erase consequences. War does not begin with hatred. It begins with justification. And the most dangerous kind of war is the one we convince ourselves was necessary.